Is that better? Is that better? Okay, that seems to be going now. My apologies firstly. Secondly, thank you everyone for immediately letting me know that I had no sound. For some reason, my microphone decided it didn't exist anymore, which is a wonderful start to a video. Absolutely magnificent start. I had a huge amount of different things that I just said. So let me just reiterate. Firstly, thanks everyone for the reminder there. We will be talking about several pieces of wrestling news. News for Roman Reigns, Ronda Rousey, the new top names on WWE Raw after a brief reshuffle. MJF, we're going to be talking that in the AEW situation, as well as plans for Alexa Bliss as well. So lots to talk about. As usual, I'll be going through the news that I have. In between that, I will be answering questions. So this is an Ask Me Anything stream. If you have any questions, please do jump in and ask away. In the meantime, of course, if you'd like to support the channel and support the journalism that we do here, please do consider hitting the like button on YouTube and subscribing if you haven't already. And yes, a massive thank you to Sai, who will likely be in at some point soon, for the new design. The new design. This is our spoiler warning design in spoiler warning colours, and eventually, yes, this may indeed be a t-shirt, but we have several options to play with these borders and these overlays. I quite like the lines coming down here, for example. Several different designs to play with, and we'll be experimenting with a few as we go forwards. Yes, I do have news on some Bayley. I do have some Bayley news, Simon, that you can look forward to. Let's catch up with the chat before I jump into the news. Austin Palmeter says, Tom Collihu time, since Brock is coming back and Money in the Bank, could you see him facing Roman or be in the Money in the Bank or show up? I don't necessarily know that he's coming back at Money in the Bank, but when he does return, he will not be feuding with Roman Reigns. Austin also says, is it true Roman is going to be out this summer and miss SummerSlam? No. Roman Reigns is booked for WWE SummerSlam. He will be competing at the event. It's your boy Kevin said, can't hear you. Austin says no volume. Lahokman says, is it just me, but I can't hear you. Really, really appreciative, guys. You immediately let me know because that could have gone big time wrong. Dimitar says no sound. Thank you as well. Simon says, Roman is just missing Hell in a Cell. Meltzer reported that yesterday. He did. Meltzer also reported that he'd be taking a lot of time off. So swings and roundabouts on that one. Steve is here saying, love the new layout. Thank you. And thank you to Sai for that one. Jaden says no sound. Bayley just says, yes. And Steve says sound on. Lahogman also says yes. Good. Everyone can hear me. Matthew Ham says, who is Roman facing at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam? Hard to tell. At the moment, Drew McIntyre seems to be the clear favourite to get that position. Dimitar says, is the layout new? It looks nice. It is new. Thank you to Sai for creating it for me. Now, Simon has asked, is Bayley returning tonight? And Bayley is one of the things that I want to be talking about. Plans have changed for Bayley. I did mention a couple of weeks ago that they were very much considering, instead of moving her to Monday Night Raw, as was planned, to feud with Becky Lynch, instead going in a different direction, ending up on SmackDown. Now, at the time, I expected she may be taking on Charlotte Flair. At this point in time, it looks more likely Bayley will be the next challenger for Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is in need of new challengers, and the obvious choices don't seem to be involved. Naomi and Sasha Banks are in the tag division and will continue to be so at least for the foreseeable future until let's just say a heel turn for one of them later in time. My suspicion personally is that it will be Naomi, but that does leave opportunities for Bayley to step up to the top. Lacey Evans has been moved to Raw and she will be a heel going forwards. So two of the top competitors that Rousey could have faced are out of the picture, leaving opportunity for someone like Bayley. Bayley is planned at the moment to be moving to SmackDown and to be considered one of the top names there, even if it is more likely that, at least at the start, she will be a heel. Rob says, nice framing graphic. Thank you, Rob. Once again, thank you, Si. KJ says, drop 2 likes and see, got a new screen background. I don't know what it's called, but it's nice. It's called an overlay, mate. Thank you very kindly for the 2 likes as well. Austin also asking, you think maybe Bayley will show up tonight? Maybe tonight, yes. Maybe tonight. I don't think it's definite. I can't say for certain that Bayley is appearing tonight, but I think Bayley is the most likely next challenger for Ronda, and from everything that I'm hearing, Bayley will be on SmackDown when she returns. She is already cleared to return and will be back in time for at least Money in the Bank, where she is expected to play a part. Logically, she would be the next challenger for Ronda Rousey. Sai says, "You're most welcome, Tom. It was my pleasure. Looking forward to the show." Thank you, Sai. Appreciate it. Rob says, "Black and Gold is back." Black and Gold did end up as the spoiler warning colours. I allowed Sai a lot of creative license for it, and he absolutely knocked it out of the park with the initial design. I was given the chance to look through Sai's portfolio and basically say, I like that, can we do something merging it? This is what we ended up with, and I'm very happy with it. This genuinely feels like a light source. I love that. I absolutely love it. Just the fact that it seems like a light source emanating off there. I might actually get my ring light, just put it there, so it looks like I'm being lit by the power of spoiler warning. I love it. I love it. Rob says, "Great job, Sai." Simon says, "Take the WWE title off of Roman, give it back to Raw. The guys need something to fight for at the top of the card." I can't disagree with you. I really can't. I do feel they need to put more focus into that. The WWE have not been giving it as much attention as they should, and I feel, as much as anything, they are losing out in things for people to fight for at the top of Raw. And this takes us nicely onto the Roman Reigns news, because Roman Reigns and WWE are struggling at the moment when it comes to how to feature him. Now, the WWE's plan up until the last few weeks was to have Roman Reigns appearing on both Raw and SmackDown. Now, however, he doesn't have enough dates in his contract to appear on both Raw and SmackDown. So the plan essentially is to have him exclusively on SmackDown and have the Usos act as his envoys. This would mean that whoever he is feuding with from Raw would make the step over to SmackDown, because Roman doesn't have that many options, and the plan is to involve a lot more people from Raw on SmackDown. This is a huge part of what's changing for SmackDown in the near future. We're going to be seeing some Cody Rhodes on SmackDown, just not quite yet. They are building up to that moment where Cody Rhodes steps up to Roman. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, very much still the plan, just to be clear on that. Now, as regards other competitors, Randy Orton is definitely being discussed. Matt Riddle is being teased, and in fact, Roman Reigns kind of wants to work with Matt Riddle and has suggested that backstage, that that's someone he wants to work with. So we may see Roman Reigns versus Riddle at some point in the near future, and just see a lot of R's. That alliteration is going to be a pain in the arse. But it is one of those difficult things where they don't want to put too many people from Raw on SmackDown or too many people from SmackDown on Raw. But it's difficult to say what they actually have to do, because there's no top champion. With this in mind, the WWE have shuffled the pack. Now, it was reported quite recently by PW Insider that the top face on WWE Raw was Bobby Lashley, and Cody Rhodes was second in that list. This is not the case. The case at the moment is very much that Bobby Lashley is quite far down the pecking order, building admittedly towards a rebirth as it were, but the second Cody Rhodes walked in at WrestleMania, he became the number one guy on Monday Night Raw. Now, previously, the hierarchy was number one, Becky Lynch, number two, Seth Rollins. That was the hierarchy. After that, you got to Bobby Lashley, Kevin Owens, Bianca Belair, etc. However, right now, number one, Cody Rhodes, number two, Seth Rollins. That is how we are looking on Raw at the moment. Noob Welcome says, "Hello Tom, how are you doing today? I got audio issues because I have to reset my phone." I also got audio issues. I do apologise for those. Thank you everyone who's already hit like on the video. We currently have 9 likes and 25 people watching. So if everyone is able to give a like on this video, you'll see the viewership massively take off, and we'll be hitting 30s and 40s in no time. So if you haven't already, please do remember to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. Bro says, "We've had Charlotte Flair out for the time being. Who is next for Ronda? Firmly, I'm expecting a certain role model to show up tonight." That is certainly where my money would be. Bayley is no longer planned to be moving to Raw, as was the initial concept, to be feuding with Becky Lynch. It was a couple of weeks ago I first said I now expect Bayley to reappear on SmackDown, potentially as a heel. At the time, I expected she'd be taking on Charlotte Flair, but right now, I feel confident that it's going to be Ronda Rousey. Jay Quick says, "I like the new spoiler warning layout, kind of an NXT feel." Yep, we are the plucky underdogs, guys. We are the plucky underdogs of wrestling journalism. We've just gone up to 12 likes, so we gained 3 likes, and we've just broken 30 viewers. What I say. Rob said, just remember we will need blue for our SmackDown watch-alongs. That is a good idea, Robs. When I do settle on a design, and I eventually will, and I like this one, potentially we could just do a palette swap for a SmackDown watch party, for example. That could be a lot of fun. That depends on you, Si, of course. You've already done me a massive service and many, many favours. So that's certainly something to consider. Austin says, I'm excited for this Shayna match tonight, but unfortunately I don't see her winning. Shayna had a good showing last week. I don't see her winning the championship, but I definitely think she's going to have a good showing this week as well. Unfortunately, when Sasha Banks and Naomi have the championships, there's only really one way it goes, and that's a breakup. Dimitar says, realistically, it's only Bayley or Shayna. Yes, at this point, the only real logical opponents for Ronda are Bayley or Shayna, or Baylor, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be difficult to lay out a plan for Ronda, but that is the WWE's plan at this time. Shayna Baszler's getting that push, and honestly, as much as it was a surprise that Lacey Evans has been tossed to the wayside, we are where we are. Simon says, good luck with that, WWE. How can Bayley be a heel in a feud with Ronda? The crowd will go nuts, cheer her like mad, and turn Ronda heel. Possibly, yes. The WWE may just be being a little naive about the fact that Bayley is Bayley, and it's very hard to boo Bayley. Austin loves the writing. Brilliant. I absolutely love that spoiler warning graphic. Absolutely do. I'm just going to, while I've got a moment, I'm just going to retweet the tweet announcing the show tonight. Just try and get a little extra love and see if we can keep building. If anyone else has not already done so and would like to, and you're on Twitter following me, please do jump in. And click that retweet or quote tweet button. I'll try and retweet any quote tweets as well, because if we're able to share that love, I'm going to be very, very grateful of that opportunity. So far the tweet has 1 retweet and 2 likes. I think we could do slightly better, personally. KJ says, I think Liv Morgan would be the perfect Money in the Bank winner, but maybe they go with Bayley or Bliss. Bayley or Bliss would be good shouts. Bayley has been a Money in the Bank winner before, though her win was actually supposed to be Sasha Banks' win before Sasha Banks took time off. Bliss has already won also, but she's in a very good spot right now. Just a very good spot to make an impact. Let's talk briefly about the plans for Alexa Bliss going forwards. Now, in case anyone hasn't been paying attention, I was the first one to say that Alexa Bliss was not planned to be back before WrestleMania. This was then pushed back to WrestleMania Backlash, and I reported this as well. So I reported exactly when Alexa Bliss would be returning with confidence several times. It wasn't picked up by anywhere. That's exclusive news that you got, the viewers, right here. And for more news, anyone who hasn't done so yet, please remember to subscribe. Going forwards now, the plan is to put Alexa Bliss on a collision course with Bianca Belair. Not immediately per se, certainly possibly saving this one for SummerSlam time, but it could be that we see a certain combination of Bianca Belair opponents, or that she actually doesn't defend the championship immediately. The next big women's feud will not be a Bianca Belair feud. It will instead be Becky Lynch versus Asuka. Meanwhile, you have Rhea Ripley, who still has issues with Liv Morgan. My expectation is that we are going to maybe skip Hell in a Cell for Bianca Belair. At Money in the Bank, we start the feud with Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss does not win Money in the Bank, someone else does. Maybe again, possibly Bayley, as I mentioned, or Naomi. I think Naomi could be an interesting choice as we build her for the heel turn, as it were. Then at SummerSlam, we get Alexa Bliss versus Bianca Belair. Bianca retains, and then shortly afterwards we have Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair going forwards, with Rhea winning the championship. That is what I expect. That's a bit of fantasy booking on my part, but for Alexa Bliss, she is definitively on a collision course as we speak with Bianca Belair. There is a championship match coming and not a championship reign. Simon says, we haven't seen Bayley in over a year. How can she be a heel in a feud? The crowd absolutely love her. They will heavily boo Ronda. I agree. I completely agree with that. Not necessarily, I can't necessarily say that the WWE agree with that. Steve says, there's a rumours true from Wrestling Observer that Rey and Dominic Mysterio may no longer be booked together as a tag team. Not to my knowledge, though, it does make sense. With the fact that the WWE confidently wanted to separate the tag team unify, I should say, the tag team championships. The Mysterios certainly don't seem to be that involved anymore. Now, Dominic is undergoing a little bit of extra training. He's been back at the Performance Center every now and then to just pick up a bit more, as it were. Rey teaches him as well. He gets a lot of training from Rey Mysterio, which is a pretty good place to be. But Rey Mysterio's push was only meant to be to push the game. They were trying to focus on a certain market, and they achieved that. In the build to WrestleMania, they were trying to recapture that Bad Bunny crowd, and yeah, they very much achieved that as well. Rey Mysterio's push not expected to continue. Dominic Mysterio a little bit further down the pecking order as well. So that certainly could work. I think that makes sense, though I haven't heard anything about it personally. KJ says, spoiler warning like a sun over you. Also, have you ever thought about calling anything of yours a Collar show? Has a nice ring to it. I've had a couple of ideas. It depends on what the shows are. Spoiler warning is obviously the news show. I'm thinking Sunday night shows could be diverse, at least, from spoiler warning, and maybe have something different. But I am working on something that I've been referring to as the midnight show. I've been working on it for like a year and haven't done it yet, but it is something in the offing, and that would be UK midnight, just to be clear, and not US midnight. So 7 p.m. Eastern time. Edward Brooks says they know Bayley is going to be cheered over Ronda, right? I don't think they do. I do. You do. We all do. I don't think they do. Bro says, can't believe there are 3 matches that always seem to never happen, even though they are logical to make. Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch versus Bayley, 4 Horsewomen, Fatal 4-Way. Becky Lynch versus Bayley, we should have had that. That moment should have come, should have been and gone already. That was the initial plan for Bayley's return, to go to Raw and feud with Becky Lynch. However, Asuka ended up getting that spot instead. Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey is planned to main event one of the nights of next year's WrestleMania. I can confirm that for a fact. At this point in time, Rousey versus Lynch is planned to main event one of the nights of WrestleMania next year. Austin says Cody versus Roman SummerSlam, certainly not an impossibility. Douglas says, any plans for Reigns versus Nakamura? Yes, there are plans for Roman Reigns to take on Shinsuke Nakamura. There is a lot of support for Nakamura at the moment. They are currently still building towards a Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura continuing feud. But with Sami Zayn, they're just trying to occupy him at the moment. They're just trying to keep him busy and doing something else. So using him as a spoiler between Roman and Shinsuke makes a lot of sense. Now, when Roman does return, as it were, and I do expect to see him tonight, just to be clear, I expect we will see more Shinsuke Nakamura, but I cannot guarantee that match will be on a pay-per-view. It very much comes down to Roman at this point. Kevin says, will Bayley lose if she faces Ronda, or will Ronda hold the title until WrestleMania? Bayley would lose if she takes on Ronda Rousey. That could potentially be the first step in a heel turn for Ronda Rousey, but let's not count our chickens because it's WWE and I don't trust it. KJ suggests Riddle versus Roman at Hell in a Cell. If Roman does work that show, then have Randy versus Roman at Money in the Bank, then Cody at SummerSlam, then Drew at the UK show. Yeah, that's a wonderful roadmap. I really like that roadmap. It would make a lot of sense. But that doesn't look like where they're heading. Which is a shame, I feel. Simon says Bayley needs to win her first feud match back. Yeah, I don't think they're going to give her that opportunity. It's the WWE. They don't like to do that. Jermaine says, hi Tom. Hello Jermaine, how you doing, mate? Steve says, what's your favourite Hell in a Cell match of all time? Well, Steve, and I'm going to say this in case you're cutting it out, ready for a video of yours. My favourite Hell in a Cell match, Steve, is the very first Hell in a Cell. Now, I know a lot of love goes to Undertaker versus Mankind, for example, but for me, Shawn Michaels spending an entire match being beaten, bloody, battered, bruised, and thrown all over the place is a work of art. It is a genuine masterpiece of storytelling. You then had the debut of Kane, and this did more for The Undertaker, more for Shawn Michaels backstage than any match in history. I loved that Hell in a Cell match. For me, best of all time. Ed says, ooh, new graphics. Ooh, indeed, Ed. Ooh, indeed. There's going to be quite a few graphical changes over the coming weeks. There are a couple of different designs that Sai passed on to me, and I'm going to take it, and we're going to try out a few different ones, see which ones are our favourite. I went with this one first because I feel a certain affinity to it, and I just really like that glow. I really like that glow. So it may be a case that I get used to this one, or think maybe we'll have something else down this side or something, and, you know, work on certain little tweaks and the like as we go through. But for now, I'm really happy with this. Really happy. Jay says, will Bayley be losing to Ronda? I suspect so, yes. Dimitar says, any news on matches for Hell in a Cell? The most likely match to be booked first is Becky Lynch versus Asuka. That is planned to go to pay-per-view. Beyond that, there will be action for RK Bro. I suspect we will get another RK Bro Usos match, but this time with no mention of Drew McIntyre. McIntyre does not have a guaranteed opponent. I suspect we will get a pay-per-view match between McIntyre and Sami Zayn. On the Raw side, Bobby Lashley versus Omos will continue. And after that, likely to go a little bit quieter. Sean says, hi Tom, love your new screen. Thank you, Sean. Sai's getting a lot of love, and so he should. Simon says, what's next for Bianca, Lacey, Freeway Dance versus Asuka, Becky? Bianca, the plan is very much Alexa Bliss. They're on a collision course. Beyond that, I'm not sure. But Lacey Evans seems to be... Pardon me. Seems like she's about to be involved. And I suspect the feud ends with her formal, I'm a heel, just in case you missed it, sort of situation. Austin says, where does Shayna go from here? She's going straight towards Ronda. That's where she's going. She's absolutely going towards Ronda. Shayna Baszler will be getting that push that I spoke about when Ronda Rousey first was returning. Just as we continue with our news and continue with our questions, please remember, if you haven't already, to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. I very much appreciate it. Marcus says, I can't read MJF because after that interview, recently said he did not say he hated AEW, just to be clear on that. So I says, Robert's creating work for me here. Kidding, will take 30 seconds. To be fair, a swap and like a title change doesn't seem like a huge thing, but you're the expert, so you know best. I was more than ready to say, oh, he's working overtime, and yet here you are. Cody Rhodes fan says, why isn't Cody the centre of all the Raw tickets advertisements? He shouldn't be behind Bianca, because Cody is not the only person in the WWE, and the WWE are concerned with newer fans, as in fans who came in the last 5 years or so, who maybe don't know Cody all that well, or don't recognise him because Stardust. Simon says, Natty versus Ronda, Shotzi, Xia Li are also available heel options for Ronda to face. Yes, but the WWE don't really want to push any of them. KJ says, Bayley versus Ronda is the obvious choice, but is it the right one? Yes, it is the obvious choice. Is it the right one? Probably not, but we are where we are. Simon says, after all, Shayna trains with Ronda, is really good friends with her. Yep, and Ronda wants to see her pushed. Joey's asking what matches do you see happening? I have just covered that. Simon says, Sasha, Liv for Money in the Bank this year. That is 2 options. Simon, you know this. Bro says, Bayley returning as a heel against Ronda could be disastrous. Bayley is definitely missed, and a lot of people, if not all, will cheer her over Ronda. This could be fatal, but oh well, there is piped noise. I hope that they go face versus face and they just have, equal opportunities and respect. I just don't think they will. Brandon, welcome, mate. Says, hey, Tom, sorry I'm late. Have I missed anything major yet? We did discuss plans for Ronda Rousey, changes to the Smackdown format slightly, and the return schedule of Bayley. KJ says maybe it's Asuka versus Becky versus Bianca at Hell in a Cell. I found that unlikely. Bianca has not been involved with either of the two of them since WrestleMania. Bianca is working independently at this point in time. Brandon says, hope you're well. I'm very well, thank you, Brandon. Very well indeed. My next promotion kicks into gear officially on Monday, so that's pretty good. Larkman says Alexa is a face, so if they do Alexa versus Bianca, it would be face versus face. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Jermaine says, I believe that Bayley will face Ronda at Hell in a Cell and at Money in the Bank, and at SummerSlam it will be Ronda versus Shayna, with Ronda retaining. That's how I see it happening. I see it happening very similarly to that. I very much see that happening. Ronda wants Shayna. I cannot be more clear on that. Ronda wants to face Shayna Baszler, and she will get the opportunity. That is something that is going to happen. I'm just going to retweet my announcement tweet of the show. We are currently at 6 retweets and 6 likes, which is a wonderful little selection. Thank you very kindly. Steve, I'm going to retweet your quote tweet first. Thank you very much for sharing. I do appreciate it. Bro says, I feel like after Raw ended, we're getting a triple threat Hell in a Cell between Becky, Asuka, and Bianca. And Money in the Bank is probably Alexa and at SummerSlam Rhea or vice versa. They are going to work this out somehow. I wouldn't mind a triple threat. Bianca has been separate, but Raw did suggest otherwise. You are correct. I wouldn't mind the triple threat, but that's basically just killing time. Just very much killing time and making sure that the top feud is still Becky versus Asuka and that Bianca's just featured. Even though she won't be featured in a big way, she'll be featured. Simon says Sasha and Naomi, Boss Glow versus the Celtic Connection, Nikki, Ash and Doudrop at Hell in a Cell. Now will there be a serious tag team going forwards? Nikki, Ash and Doudrop have been given an opportunity here. An opportunity to really kick into gear everything that they've been trying to achieve. Now admittedly, Nikki Cross has had opportunities and the WWE do not believe she's really taken them. But at the same time, Doudrop has had opportunities and the WWE really do believe that she's taken them. So honestly, I'm quite excited to see where they take this. Joey says, when do you see Bayley coming back? It would be before Money in the Bank. I believe it will be very, very soon indeed. Without, spoiling any surprises. Noob says the feud between Asuka and Becky has been very entertaining and funny. That backstage segment on Monday is very funny. I'd imagine you're very happy, mate. Asuka's back. Jay Quick says, you're becoming the midnight UK David Letterman since you're doing a midnight show. I mean, if I was able to create a show like that on this budget, I'd be thrilled. I would absolutely love it. I would 100% be committing to that heavily. Simon says, Alexa returning heel soon for the future feud of Bianca. Did not say that in any way, shape or form. Face versus face is something that does happen. Welcome, Ring Scoops. How you doing, mate? Great to see you. KJ says people were mentioning that Ray and Dom are in Mexico getting stem cell treatments. They said he posted it on his story, but I haven't seen it. Also, I've not seen that myself. Sean says, I love how accurate you are, Tom. Called Alexa's return perfectly and her new character. Another win for you. Funny how no one else has picked up on it. Well, to be fair, some big names in wrestling media have decided to tell everyone never to run my stories. And the fun thing is how many times you see my reports days later, weeks later, behind their paywalls. Jermaine says, as for the Bloodline storyline, I believe that they lose all the titles before the UK pay-per-view. Wouldn't necessarily say before, maybe at. And Lockman says, you're so right to Sean. Big W for Tom. Thanks, guys. Thanks. The only way I will be picked up by different outlets and my news is going to get out there, as it were, is with people like yourselves basically pushing it, because I can push it as much as I want. The second I try and put myself over, as it were, I get a wall of abuse from people just laying into me about it. When I get something right, nobody pays any attention. I get one thing wrong. Everyone's talking about it. And I did get it wrong. And then I apologised, and people reinterpreted that apology as, oh, he admitted to making things up. One, that's never happened. Two, you'll never find evidence that that's ever happened because it's never happened. And three, you clearly just said, I don't do my own research. I just listen to whatever the hell else people tell me. The only way that my news will be picked up, those W's in the column will be factored in, is with the help of people like yourselves. And you guys have done wonders for me, and I thank you all for that. JJ says, I don't want Becky versus Ronda anymore, but I know once it starts, Becky will make me want it. Yep, absolutely. Simon says, Jermaine, Drew versus Roman's the main event for the UK pay-per-view. They're on the poster in the middle. Does that mean that Cody Rhodes is the main event of Hell in a Cell on his own? It's not quite the same thing. Bro says, maybe, just maybe, we get Becky Lynch versus Bayley at Clash of the Castle. I'm going to be optimistic. Let's all manifest it. I would have no issue with that. Just to be clear, I would have no issue with that. Of course, that will be right around the time of the draft. So some new and interesting matchups could be coming. Dimitar says, Meltzer reported that Charlotte is returning during the summer and she is facing Ronda. There will undoubtedly be a rematch. Charlotte will not be able to claim the championship back. Sama says, I love Sasha versus Bayley, Hell in a Cell. Cactus Jack versus Triple H, Hell in a Cell. That one was a good one. Cactus Jack falling through the ring was a lot of fun, even though I'm basically just enjoying someone else's pain. I do. Oh, Rob says, FYI, I noticed one of your tweets were posted at Wrestling Forum in the MJF discussion. Rob, if you've got the opportunity, would you be able to link me to that? I've not seen that. Would you be able to link me if possible, please? Simon says, wrestling Twitter, the IWC YWC, I don't know what YWC is, will crucify the WWE for the Ronda feud. They've already done that for the entire Ronda feud so far and will continue to do so going forwards. Everything Ronda does, the IWC will crucify her. That's it. That's it. So why would the WWE listen? They literally can't do it in a way that the fans will be happy because Ronda Rousey exists. So personally, I would ignore the fans too. Sai says, amazing that next year's Mania matches may be set. Dave Meltzer said it too. I said so too. Does that suggest the Money in the Bank Mania stipulation was maybe right? I doubt if even tonight's SmackDown has been written yet. The Money in the Bank will not factor into the WrestleMania stipulation, but the plans are in place. The WWE has made clear their intentions. We're getting Becky versus Ronda. Now, as regards The Rock, they're still not sure because they just don't know what's going to happen as to the availability of The Rock. But still, that's what they want. Steve says, as regards Hell in a Cell, great choice. HBK versus Taker of Bad Blood was a 5-star classic in my opinion. I believe it actually was a 5-star match. Definitely in my top 3 Cell matches. It wasn't my intention this time asking, but I'm going to do a video based on this. You go ahead and you clip that out, sir. Would love to be involved. Fort Minor Project says, hope Bayley returns tonight. It's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. YouTube wrestling community. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. I'm also quite enjoying what's going on with Ed and Ring Scoops. For anyone who doesn't know, Ed Fries, our very own, as you know, is currently doing NXT reviews for the Ring Scoops channel. Ring Scoops, of course, has just jumped into the show, so by all means click on that name on the YouTube side and follow along if you'd like to see more from Ed and, of course, more from Ring Scoops in general. Brandon says, are we going to see Veer at Hell in a Cell, or is he just going to keep squashing randomers on Raw? For a little while, I suspect we're going to see more of the squashes. Just more squashing of the randomers. They're going to keep building him up slowly but surely, and to be honest, it's working pretty well on YouTube because of the audience that he brings in. The particular audience that they have been trying for years to get Jinder Mahal to bring in, Veer Mahan actually does bring in. Simon says, when do we get Sasha versus Ronda? They will need to break up the tag team first, so it is more likely to be later in the year, early next year. I suspect it may be another Royal Rumble match. Freaks of Wrestling Podcast says, are we getting Cody Rhodes versus Rollins at Hell in a Cell pay-per-view? Yes, we are. I strongly suspect that match is going to be inside Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell has become the Seth Rollins show for a while now. I'm okay with it. Fort Minor says, what do you want to see happen at Hell in a Cell? I want to see Asuka beat Becky Lynch. I want to see Cody Rhodes beat Seth Rollins and then just walk away and just end the whole thing. And I want to see Roman Reigns wrestle. One of these things I will not be getting. Brian Dalton says, Cody Seth inside Hell in a Cell? I believe so, yes. Simon says, has CM Punk got any chance of winning the AEW World title? Yes. Oh, now? No. Austin says, Cody versus Seth inside Hell in a Cell. Main eventing Hell in a Cell? Probably. Yeah, I definitely suspect so. Cody is the number one guy on Raw right now. They are building him as strongly as they can. Seth, of course, right there behind him. So that makes perfect sense to me. Now, Sean, I am retweeting your quote tweet for the show today. Thank you very kindly for sharing. This always gives me an opportunity to not just retweet and put you guys over, but to just remind people that the show is ongoing. The show lasts for an hour, and if I publicise it at the beginning, chances are by the end, no one remembers it. No one remembers that it's happening. It's great to see so many people in so many names, as it were. John says, did you not watch Raw, Tom? I didn't watch all of it. I got to be honest. I skimmed some of it because I do work a full-time job. I don't have the opportunity to be up from 1 till 4, so I catch up as well as I can while also spending time with my family. I have family now. Families are cool. Sai says, thanks for all the feedback. Work in progress, but Tom deserves the best. Let's make sure he gets it. Built a great channel and a terrific, supportive and knowledgeable community. Well done all. Thank you, Sai. Thank you. And thank you everyone who's a part of this community. We work very hard to deliver something entertaining, something informative, and just something that you can all feel like you're a part of. It's why I try and answer every single comment, because this is your show. These shows last for like an hour regularly, but I only prepare news for 10-15 minutes. You guys ask questions, you guys make comments, you guys chat amongst yourselves, and that keeps the show going and it keeps the show growing. So thank you, everybody. Simon says, Kevin Owens for men's Money in the Bank. Owens deserves to be World Heavyweight Champion once again. I'd like that. I'd like him with a briefcase. I absolutely would. I think that would be fantastic. There's a lot of good stuff that could come out of that, and I'd be very happy to do it. Michael says, do you think Bobby beats Omos on Monday? Unfortunately, I do not. I think Omos gets the win again, and the feud continues into Hell in a Cell. I think Omos comes out of this entire feud the winner, and then Bobby Lashley starts to get his heat back by essentially being thrown at Roman, which I would take. Simon says, FA Cup final score prediction for tomorrow, Tom, for your lot. I did not even realise it's tomorrow. I'm going to go 2-1 to Liverpool. They've not been really at the races recently. And in the League Cup, Chelsea should have won. They absolutely should have won. But I do think Liverpool are a bit more refined now than they were then. And Chelsea have been taking a bit more hits every now and then. They've lost momentum a little more. So I do think it'll be a win, but a close one. John says, I don't think Belair would be happy being kept off 2 pay-per-views, especially when her contract is coming up soon. I don't think she would be unwilling to sign a new contract, especially given the push that she's had for the last year or so. But I do think she'd be unhappy being kept off 2 pay-per-views in a row. Brandon says, sat here with a nice ice-cold beer watching Spoiler Warning. My Friday night could not get any better. I appreciate that, mate. That is lovely to hear. Thank you. Austin says, I love hearing Shayna get a push. She so deserves it. She's being featured heavily now. But you just wait. You just wait. Bro says, honestly, keep Bayley off of TV until the Money in the Bank pay-per-view at PLE. She might get the same reaction John Cena did last year. Dang, that was chilling. Time flies fast. I would be happy with that. I think as soon as she returns, she will get a hero's welcome. And I think she's fully deserving of it. Give me Bayley being announced for Money in the Bank, but not actually appearing on TV until the actual day. Give me her as a surprise appearance, appearing in Money in the Bank. Even if she doesn't win it, the fact that she's returned, they can make something of that. They can make something big. Ooh, Sean bringing some stats. Alexa's return is at 1 million viewers. Also, so is Cody versus Fury for the US title. Via squash matches at 1.2 million on YouTube. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. It may or may not have something to do with Sportskeeda. Noob says the feud between Asuka and Becky is... You've already said that one. Larkman says, do you think WWE would do another match between Sonya versus Alexa, or that was a one-time only thing? That was meant to be a reintroduction to Alexa, but also clarification of where she's headed. They didn't want to bring her in and have a squash local talent. They wanted her to beat someone higher up the pecking order. They wanted to show you that they mean business with Alexa Bliss. Hashtag Bliss means business. You know? That's what they're trying to do with that. And I feel that they achieved that. Yes, bro, quite excited. Quite excited. I think the quad's gone, to be honest. I think the draw against Spurs sealed that, as it were. But I always thought the title was City's to lose. Spider-Boss says, hi, Tom. What is next for Sasha and Naomi? Couple more matches, primarily Nikki Ash and Doudrop, before a breakup and moving forwards. Spider-Boss says, 4 years ago, social media fans hated Brock. Now they love him. Yeah, he was a good heel. That's the thing. If you respect a heel, they're a bad heel. That's why Baron Corbin is probably the best heel the WWE has had in decades. Brandon says, did you see any of that Darby versus Hardy match on Dynamite? That spot with Darby basically breaking his spine, falling onto Jeff in the chairs made my head hurt just watching. I've seen some clips. It looked intense. It looked exactly like I'd expect with Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy, let's be honest. Bro says, just turn Ronda heel. Like, seriously, we might get more emotion and anger from Ronda. I don't want smiley Ronda anymore. The backlash was awesome. I'll give her credit. She is naturally gifted. You can have great matches and be a heel. You can. She's a perfect heel. She's everything we want in a villain right now. She should be sat there saying, fine, make me your villain. Madness. Freaks of Wrestling saying, are we getting Cody Rhodes versus Rollins at Hell in a Cell inside Hell in a Cell? Yes. Yes, we are. Sean says, your thoughts on Natalya defeating Cora? It's part of a larger plan. Cora Jade will get her revenge. The idea is to get eyes on Cora Jade and build her up ready for a championship win. Ring Scoop says, I appreciate the shout out, Tom. Ed Fries does a wonderful job on his NXT recap and review each week. I have been tuning in, and yes, indeed he does. Joey says, do you watch NXT UK? I do not. How to phrase this? Too many accused accused abusers. Bro says, who do you think will main event Hell in a Cell? I feel like it should be Cody Seth, but I'm nervous it'll end in a no contest because they love that. I'm confident Cody Rhodes will be winning inside Hell in a Cell in the main event of Hell in a Cell. Pardon me. Over Seth Rollins. Brian says, any plans for Liv, AJ and Finn versus Edge, Priest and Rhea match? Yes. Yes, there is. The WWE are currently debating. They want the tag team match, AJ and Finn versus Edge and Priest. However, they're not sure they want it to be 6-person mixed tag. They may instead go with a singles match, Rhea versus Liv. That would be on Raw, not on the pay-per-view. They do believe it will be more impactful and be in front of more eyes on Raw, and also that it will be a bigger moment seeing the individuals fight rather than as part of a larger group. I think they should go the other way and have the wrestlers work in association as well. Simon says, Seth needs to start winning matches soon. People are starting to really complain about his losing streak. I haven't seen that. Seth Rollins for me is one of those that just regains all his heat pretty much immediately after a loss. And I'm really happy about that. Jay Quick says, hashtag Team Collar You t-shirt, mate. T-shirt. You t-shirt. T-shirt. We may need that. Maybe need that adding. I'm not sure. If you are watching on YouTube, please do remember to hit that thumbs up, like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, to the double figures currently watching on Twitch. If you've not yet done so, please remember to hit follow. We're currently 470, trying to get to 500 followers there as well. And subscribe if you haven't there as well, if you would like to support the channel further. Brandon says, I very much doubt we'll be getting Rock and Roman at least next year's WrestleMania. If you look at Rock's upcoming film projects, there's no chance in hell, that Rock has time for a program with Roman. Unless they did it like Stone Cold, where he's just called out and doesn't show up till Mania. That, in my opinion, would suck, though, for Roman versus Rock. Yeah, the WWE, the entire time Roman has been on top, have been in contact with The Rock to try and bring him in to use him against Roman. So far, it has not happened. They try and do it constantly. Spider Boss says, I've never got why fans on social media hate Ronda so much. There are some unlikable things about Ronda Rousey. There are some likable things about Ronda Rousey. But I think as much as anything, Ronda Rousey, the crime for Ronda Rousey was not being Becky Lynch in her first run. The crime for Ronda Rousey is not being Sasha Banks in her second. Simon suggests Bullet Club, Liv, AJ, Finn versus a Judgment Day at Hell in a Cell intergender 6-person tag. I did mention that idea first during the Backlash show. I'm hoping for it. Very much so. Riley says, hi Tom, not watching Rampage? Starts soon. I think it's 10:45 UK time. I love the channel and stream. Thanks. Thank you, Riley. Appreciate that. I am not watching Rampage. This is a spoiler warning show. I cannot nail down when Rampage starts anymore because it starts all over the place. And I don't watch AEW regularly enough. Spider-Boss says, I hope that Bianca has a match at Hell in a Cell. Me too. It's always beneficial for your champions to be as involved as possible. I think Bianca Belair's in a perfect position to be a part of that, so we might as well make it happen. Jay says, I hope Becky versus Asuka is in a cell. I really want it, and some people on Twitter do too. I don't think there's enough heat behind it at this point to really go to the cell immediately. I wouldn't be angry at it, but I don't think it's got the heat required. Riley says, hopefully Bayley goes to SmackDown. They have no one. If Alexa, Asuka and Lacey Evans all recently going to Raw, do you agree, Tom? I do. I do think that's the plan at this point in time. Simon says, your thoughts on the MJF TK-AEW situation? Right, this is a perfect opportunity for me to get into it. Thank you very much for asking the question, Simon. For those who watched the AEW financial analysis of myself and Brillman that is currently on this YouTube channel, if you haven't watched it, please do go back and watch it if you're interested in stuff like this. We broke down exactly how much money AEW is currently spending, or at least as best we could with the information that's out there. To be blunt, they are spending more than they're making. There is no way that they are not currently spending more than they're making. That is fact. That is fact. So, when it comes to MJF, contract negotiations may not involve the big numbers that he feels that he deserves. And that I feel he deserves. I feel he's one of the biggest ones. Now, for a while now, I've been saying two things about MJF. One, He's definitely going to WWE at some point. 2, he's the next one to win the AEW Championship. Why? Because that's what they can offer him. They can't offer him the money that WWE can. For years, people have been telling me that AEW can offer bigger contracts than WWE. It is not the case. It is categorically not the case. So, with that in mind, the WWE have more bargaining power. They simply have more bargaining power than AEW. So, I see MJF certainly at least testing the waters and tempting WWE into at least making an offer. And I see AEW offering him the championship to stay. And I think he'd be a perfect champion. Sean says, Vince Russo said that Alexa's return was terrible. He said, that's how you return a star like Alexa. He wanted her to return by challenging Bianca or challenging Bianca or stepping up to Becky. He also wants Alexa to leave WWE. He said she's bigger than WWE. So to be clear, Vince Russo wants Alexa Bliss to return to take on Bianca or Becky or leave. You treat a star huge by firing her? Is that what you're going for? Bit crap. Also says, does anyone actually listen to Vince Russo? A lot of people do. Like a lot of people. Simon says, Rock's got far too much going on in his life to come back to pro wrestling. Yes, that's true. But if the opportunity did arise, he would look at taking it. Spider-Boss says, looking how WWE booked Bianca's title reign, it will not surprise me if Rhea beat Bianca soon. Wouldn't say soon, but I do think potentially in and around the draft, Rhea is in a perfect position to do that. The Hawkman says Vince Russo also suggested that Rhea should become a manager for Finn Balor, destroy the men's division and protect Finn. I mean, I'm on record saying that I want Rhea Ripley versus Drew McIntyre, but that would be cool. Andrew Quinn says, hi Tom, hope you've had a great day. Also, have you seen the new Avatar 2 Way of the Water movie trailer? I have not. And Cody versus Seth and Hell in a Cell will be a spectacular match. I agree. Michael Winston says, do you think the push for Bobby Lashley is over? For now, yes. However, just for now. I definitely feel like Bobby Lashley has a lot more to give, and I definitely think there are more championship opportunities coming Bobby Lashley's way. He is a perfect person to be going up against Roman Reigns sooner rather than later. Bro says, Ronda versus Bayley is definitely a match I'm looking forward to seeing. I just hope they don't mute Bayley's ovation when she returns. We waited 9+ months to see her back, and I don't think I can handle it. I'll be screaming. I may not actually be screaming, because many of you may be watching the watch party that we'll have later on for SmackDown, but I'll be screaming. Spider Boss says, Sasha and Seth are the only ones who, even losing, they still look good. Yeah, it's just because the fans are so far behind them. Jermaine says, I believe Ronda and whoever is the Raw Women's Champion will swap titles, with Ronda being moved to Raw and being the Raw Women's Champion in the draft. That way WWE can work towards Ronda versus Becky. I believe that is likely as well, yes. I don't see Bianca and Ronda swapping championships, but I could see Ronda and Rhea swapping championships. Bro says Charlotte needs a character evolution. Hasn't changed since 2016. The rest of the Four Horsewomen definitely evolved. There have been subtle changes to Charlotte Flair, but otherwise she does keep going back to the same overall character. Now, it's a character that works and it's a character that I like. Certainly it works as a heel, but a bit of evolution wouldn't be a bad thing. And maybe upon her next return, she'll be something more than just the Queen. I mean, she tried to be the Opportunity, but let's face it, she's still the Queen. A killer queen, but a queen nonetheless. Simon says, your thoughts on the Nikki Alexa past tag team? Personally, I loved it. Thought it was really great as a very big Alexa fan. I very much enjoyed that combination. And I would also quite like it if we saw this version of Alexa Bliss paired up with this version of Nikki, Ash and Doudrop. I think as a trio, they could actually be quite dominant and go for the championships and the tag championships and just variations thereof. I think that would be a good way to make sure all three of them get plenty of airtime and plenty of backstage opportunities as well. KJ says, no need to rush a newly heel-turned Rhea to lose so soon. I agree. Give it time, let it breathe, and just see where we go with it. Just see where we go. Steve says, who would be your dream WWE interview? Well, I have actually achieved my dream WWE interview. My favourite wrestler growing up was Triple H. Has been for a very long time. essentially since the first pay-per-view I ever watched, SummerSlam 98, when he was in a ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship with The Rock. That's the match that made me fall in love with wrestling. The Rock and Triple H at SummerSlam 98. It was just everything I wanted from wrestling. Just pure glorious carnage. I have interviewed Triple H. Several times, in fact. The first time, I was terrified, and you can actually hear in the audio from it. It's on Sportskeeda, their YouTube. You can hear in the audio how terrified I was. And hey, that's how it was. But I got my question. I made him think, and he remembered my question afterwards for the next time. I shook the man's hand, and I got a picture. Dream come true. Dream come true. Simon says, does Sasha's match main event tonight? It's the most advertised thing on the show. Possibly, but I feel more likely it'll be the final match of the show, but Roman Reigns will main event in some way, shape or form. Sean says, what did you think of the Clash at the Castle poster? Bit stereotypical, but the focus on Drew McIntyre doesn't necessarily mean that Drew McIntyre is getting the big opportunity, just that Drew McIntyre is going to get focus because, hey, he's from the UK. He's not from Wales, though, just to be clear. He's not from Wales. Simon says, when is Brock returning? I expect he'll be returning around SummerSlam time. I don't personally think we'll see him for Money in the Bank, and if we do, it's probably going to be against Bobby Lashley. Spider-Boss says, I wonder why Roman will not be at Hell in a Cell. Lack of competitors, but more likely, he just said, nah. This is very classic of the Tribal Chief. After his return in 2020, he barely wrestled, and he didn't wrestle on SmackDown. In 2021, that changed. He wrestled a lot of matches. Not anymore. He hasn't wrestled on SmackDown much this year at all, has he? If at all. Bayley says, do you see Bayley introducing a new variant or a new look on her character with her arrival? A new look, yes. A new variant, not so much. I feel she will be instructed not to lean into the cheers, but it's going to be hard for her not to lean into the cheers. When she first says ding dong hello, I expect her to be lifting up the microphone and just enjoying the moment. That's what I want to see. I don't know if we will see it, but that's what I want to see. Brandon says, who would Omos have to move on to next with MVP that would be a credible opponent after his feud with Lashley is done? It's a good question. When it comes to faces, there aren't actually that many options there. I suspect Omos might then start working with someone like Randy Orton. Or, and this makes me sad, but it's WWE, so that's probably exactly what they'll do, Rey Mysterio. Spider-Boss says, I would love to see Charlotte working on non-title feuds more often. That is the plan. As I've been mentioning for a while now, this year is not the year of the Four Horsewomen. It's not. They are going to be pushed to the background a little bit more than they have been previously. We're at a point now where none of them are actually in the top championship feuds. Now, Becky's very close to a top championship feud. She's still in and around Bianca. But Sasha Banks ain't nowhere near. Bayley's not available right now. Charlotte Flair's taking time off. The Four Horsewomen are not the apple of the eye, as it were, at this point in time. Steve asks, what are your thoughts on the Twitter war between Eric Bischoff and CM Punk? Bit pathetic, bit unnecessary. It's one of those where I think we should all just grow up and move on. Simon says, Tony versus Dr. Britt Baker in the semi-final of the Owen Hart tournament. Okay. Spider-Ball says, I always wonder why other Latino wrestlers haven't reached the level of success of Eddie Guerrero. Combination of things. First and foremost, Eddie Guerrero had a gimmick that the WWE wanted to push. He lied, he cheated, he stealed, and the WWE said, we can make a top guy out of that. Secondly, Eddie Guerrero's really good, or was at least really good. And I mean really, really good. Thirdly, I don't think enough is said about the fact that Brock Lesnar wanted to work with Eddie Guerrero. And that made a big deal out of Eddie Guerrero at that point. Now, admittedly, being part of the SmackDown 6, working with Paul Heyman, that was all a big help to Eddie Guerrero. But what made him the top-level star that everyone remembers is Brock Lesnar leaving. He wouldn't have won the championship without Brock Lesnar leaving. Sean says, what would be the dream interview for a women's wrestler? Probably Sonya. I have a lot of questions for her particularly. I feel it would probably be Sonya Deville. Wrestling and Magic Madsen, welcome back. Says, if Reigns leaves for a part-time thing, which wrestler will dethrone him? Difficult one to say. I do think Cody Rhodes is going to be up there. Going to be up there is one of them. But I think Bobby Lashley should be another mention as well. Sean says, I want to see a babyface role model. Me too, and that should be exactly what it is. They should not be messing around here. That should be exactly what we get, and that's what I want. Spider Boss says, if Bayley returns, I would love to see her coming out after Sasha's match. It's not impossible. Not impossible. And that would certainly be the beginning of the heel turn for Naomi. And Wrestling and Magic Madsen says, do you see Cody Rhodes as world champion this year, or will he first win in 2023? I see him being world champion within a calendar year of his return. Before or at next year's WrestleMania, I believe Cody Rhodes will be a top champion. Welcome, Wiggly. How you doing, mate? Steve says, completely agree on the Twitter beef. Thank you kindly. I just think it's all very, very unnecessary. Wiggly says, I want to see the Bayley Buddies return. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. And Johnny Crow, welcome to the show. Says, what do you think of the slander of Dominic Mysterio? It's a bit extreme and unnecessary for me. Dominic came in a house of fire, wrestled some very good matches with some very big names, admittedly was carried quite heavily in that, but also he hasn't gone through developmental. He's doing what he does and what he can right now, and I feel he's delivered in pretty much everything he's been doing. Do need to change that. Thank you, Johnny Crow, for your subscription. I am just going to try and move that alert box to a slightly different location so that we can see it under the overlay. Thank you for making that one clear. But thank you very much for subscribing, Johnny. If anyone is currently watching on YouTube and is not subscribed, please consider doing so. We are currently at just over 1,100 subscribers and we continue to grow. You will get spoiler warning shows 3 times a week and one Smackdown watch party, which is happening later on tonight. So please do remember to like and hit subscribe. Sean says, any news on Moxley? Nothing yet. No new contract has been signed. Hector says, Tom just got to see his stream. Nice new graphics and hope you're well. Thank you, Hector. Hope you're well as well. KJ says, Tony can't face Baker in finals as they're on the same side of the bracket. Seen someone say it. Okay, fair enough. Spider-Boss says, any plans for the IC title? They're working this one out as they go along. They're not sure. They're not sure what's going to go on with the IC title. They want Ricochet to get a push out of it, but at the same time, they also kind of want to just give it back to Sami Zayn. Steve said, I'd quite like Dominic Mysterio move to NXT, have a feud with or join Legado del Fantasma. There may or may not be something in Rey Mysterio's contract that prevents that from happening. Rey Mysterio may have signed with the WWE and actually took a significant pay cut for a reason that involves Dominic Mysterio. Let's hypothetically say that. Sean says, who was a Joker against Samoa Joe? I'd pick Cesaro. I'd like to see Cesaro. Cesaro versus Samoa Joe sounds absolutely amazing. And Spider-Boss says, I think Dominic Mysterio had big shoes to fill, knowing he carries the legacy of Rey. I think he's essentially been put in a position whereby he can't possibly win. There's not going to be another Rey Mysterio. Dominic needs to stand on his own a little bit, and the fans need to let him. We have been going for an hour, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Say a massive thank you to everyone for joining us for Spoiler Warning. Now, just before everyone heads off and abandons it completely, please be aware that we will be hosting a watch party for tonight's WWE Smackdown. We'll be watching the entire 2-hour show. Let me just grab the link to that for you. So I'm going to post this here on YouTube and indeed on Twitch as well. So if you haven't done so yet, please do remember, even if you watch on Twitch, to subscribe over on YouTube as well. Every little does help. In the meantime, though, I hope everyone's really enjoyed the new graphics. I'm really liking them, and we'll continue to see a couple more designs as we go forward, work out what people like, what people need, and so on. Weekly, I did say earlier, Liverpool 2, Chelsea 1 is what I'm predicting. And from there, we will see what happens going forwards. So hopefully I'll see all of you for the SmackDown Watch Party later. If not, hopefully I'll see you for future spoiler warnings. Until then, thank you everyone for joining me. I've been Tom Collihew. You've been fantastic. And I'll see you all very, very soon.